Good morning, Harris Academy. My name is Mr. Doherty and I'm joined by my co-presenter,
Mr. Rickenberg.
and we are here for our not so weekly ramble of jogging around the world. Good morning to you,
This is the
sir.
first one of 2025.
Is it the first one? Right.
It's the 31st of January.
To our fans, we apologise. Well, we have to explain where we've been, don't we?
So first Friday, I think we just said no, didn't we?
Yeah, just because it was the first week back, it was just carnage and we were just getting settled again, weren't
Yeah.
we?
Second week I was in Dorset.
Yeah, he went down, can't say Dorset, they don't know what that is. He was on the Dorset coastline.
Dorset, I was trying to find.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's too early for that, can't I? Right, Dorset coastline, what were you doing down there?
Practicing field work for the year 12s.
Lovely.
Ready for their NEA. You
Great.
did the exact same trip last year. And
Great.
I did the exact same trip 2 years before that.
Great trip.
Great trip.
Really get to see some beautiful coastline.
It's the only reason I go, to be honest.
Yeah, it's cool. And the breakfast is good though, isn't
Breakfast good, and the dinners, I will say, the sides.
it? Why were the sides so
They
good?
did this. They did
Should we
this.
just give some context as to where you're staying first?
Yeah,
Leeson
so
House?
staying at Leeson House, so big shout out to Leeson House. They did this side where it was like an Italian salad with mozzarella and like sun-dried tomatoes.
Lovely.
And we had lasagna on one day, we had chili on another day.
What dish did you have the side salad with?
Lasagna.
Lovely.
And then it was cold off, mate. The sides were outrageous this time.
Sides make a dish.
Yeah, they
Sundries. Brilliant.
Um,
Okay, so that's where you were that Friday. Then the
last
Friday.
Friday.
Was there a reason that I couldn't do a podcast? Was it just last Friday we were just all over the place?
What happened last Friday?
You had 10 parents evening. You was on the Thursday, wasn't it?
And then we didn't do it on Friday. Why didn't we do it Friday? Why didn't we do it last Friday?
I don't know. I think we were just too tired.
There was a
We
reason.
went to McDonald's.
Did we just not do it?
No, yeah, we just couldn't do it. We were just so tired. I'm sure that's why. All right.
Shows our commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
A lot going on.
Shout out, sir. Well, first of all, how are you?
I'm alright. Yeah, I'm alright. Thank you. Yeah, busy, tired. My eyes are stinging.
Yeah, it's been a hefty last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I feel like this half
Mocks and all
term
that
has
sort of
felt
stuff.
like. Yeah, we'll get into that when we do your shout outs, but I feel like it's just been a whole term in itself.
Yeah.
These dark mornings, and I know I love the seasons and winter and stuff like that, but now I'm like, come on now,
Yeah.
we need some daylight.
Yeah.
This is getting a bit too much.
And look out, it's miserable.
I saw a photo on my phone before of me in the garden in the summer.
Yeah. Vibes.
I thought, look how nice that sky looks. It's
Yeah.
lovely. But yeah, no, I'm good. Very excited for the weekend.
Yeah.
Just-
I've got this. I'll just say because you said a picture of you in the garden. I've got this like thing on my front screen, my phone, right, and it goes through pictures.
That's what was on my phone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go- just
I
go
don't
through
even know how it
pictures.
works, but
Goes through pictures and stuff like that. And then yesterday I looked at it. It was just the pictures of you.
mine comes
There's
up.
me, picture of my girlfriend and stuff like that, and there's just pictures of you.
Mine's the same. So I looked at it earlier and there was a picture of you on the beach in Italy. Why is he on my phone? I want this bike come up as a screensaver.
No, it's not a screensaver, but it's like this thing. It's like it gives me like a
Photo
montage,
reel.
like
Yeah,
photo reel thing. So
yeah.
normally it's me and my girlfriend, or it's just me, my front fish and my dog, and this picture of you. So I remember that. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Right, what are we drinking this morning? So
Right.
you made the coffees,
Yeah,
but
we're on the good stuff. I bought some. Yeah, so that's what you're dealing with. Yeah, so we're on only one scoop today. Because
Right.
you said you had two,
yeah,
so 2 coffees already. One scoop. You got a sugar in there,
yeah, I need it today. Yeah.
and then I've got a sugar and a half. Just giving that a little push.
I mean, we're on a different brand today.
Oh,
aren't we?
Kenko again,
Kenko.
but we 92 cup tub that.
Yeah, you just pick up a cup, tub of
thank you,
Kenko.
yeah,
It's nice, I like it, but I have to apologise for my cup, ladies and gentlemen. I broke my cup at football last week, so I do apologise. Right, shout outs.
Shout outs, right? First of all, Year 11s,
Massive
Mocks.
shout out to our Year 11s.
because they seem to be really. Most of the lessons I've had, some of one or two have been a battle, but generally they're cracking on.
Yeah.
It's probably the most intense, like we said, probably one of the most intense 2 weeks, bar Ofsted, that I've had in terms of the quickness of how the mocks have come around,
Yeah.
and like the whole process and stuff. But some of them are really trying and really cracking on. So well done to them.
Yeah,
Massive shout
out to Year 11. Well done, you. That's an intense, intense exam period. It's a lot, and you've done
Yeah.
really well. It's, yeah.
Second shout out, parents' evenings.
Yes, we had Year 10 parents' evening last year, so Miss Oakley gets shout out for running that, organising that, and setting it all up. It was a successful evening. It was absolutely rammed, the Year 10 parents' evening, wasn't it? That was a busy one. And then We had year 8 parents evening last night, so again, massive shout.
That was a busy one for me.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. That was a massive shout out to just everyone who stays behind, staff, sorting it out. Same for year 10.
Yeah.
What else did we had? Year 9 options evening.
Yeah, that seemed like an absolute success.
That was really successful. Yeah, I've spoken to my year 9s about it, but I think that is the most scared I've ever been in terms of like public speaking and stuff. I was shaking standing up there in front of everybody, and I'm not afraid to admit it. That was terrifying, but it's done. It was good.
Right, I want to shout out one more person.
Go on.
Helen, new cleaner.
Oh right, yeah.
She's putting a shift in. Right. So our wonderful Wendy has retired. We gave her a massive thank you at the end of the last episode, and we come back after Christmas, and somehow Wendy was still here, right? All of her writing was still on the board, and and I think we had slight issues with staff and stuff, but now we've got Helen. Helen is doing a hell of a job because she's doing the sixth form, cleaning the whole sixth form one day, and the other day she's doing our corridor. Right, so she's putting in a hell of a shift, and the classroom's looking great. Yeah,
it's good. It's good. Makes all the difference, doesn't it?
All the difference.
Right.
Absolutely.
What are we discussing today then?
We are discussing A-level, sir.
Right.
We're discussing a year 13 topic, which I think is going to be interesting to a lot of people. We're discussing the topic of diseases, sir.
Right. Really, really interesting.
You're teaching this, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah, I'm teaching.
How are you finding it?
Yes. Do you know what? It's really interesting, actually. It's funny. I got learning walked by Mr. Udik.
Did you?
So I'm in the middle of talking, to put some context into this, I'm in the middle of talking about pain receptors in the body and how they link, how paracetamol attacks pain receptors and basically blocks them off. That's how.
Is that the videos?
That's the video. So I was always wondering.
That's where the video. Now I always eat before I take paracetamol.
Yeah. So yeah, to help. But then so you always wonder, if you've got like a sore finger and you take 2 paracetamol and all of a sudden you're like, well, that worked. How did the paracetamol know where to go? It's quite funny. So the body's releasing pain receptors. They basically block it and stop the signals being sent. And then, so I'm in the middle of talking about this, playing these videos, and I'm no biology teacher, and in walks the head of science with another science teacher to watch me, and I'm like, oh my God, it couldn't have been, I suppose, better or worse timing, to be honest, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, it's really interesting. And obviously we'll get into it, but post-COVID, you're like, all right, this really is.
You end up, sometimes, you obviously never say thank you to COVID, but it's made teaching that topic a lot easier.
A lot easier.
A lot of people now know, especially when we talk about the mitigation, the mitigation attempts. Yeah. People now know what they are because they've lived through it.
Yeah, and so we can relate to it, because if had that not happened, trying to teach people about global pandemics, they were so alien to us, weren't they? The Black Death, you're like, all right, it was so long ago, that would never happen again. We'd never be in the same situation. Whereas it's like we've lived through a pandemic, which is, I suppose, quite rare.
Yeah, it's like 3 years since the pandemic now. It's mad.
No, it's more than that.
2025. So no, it's there till the end of it. 2022, isn't it?
Right.
2021 maybe.
So when you think, but disease dilemmas, really interesting topic. So what we're going to start with?
We're going to start off and we'll classify some diseases first, right? So when we start off with diseases, we classify what these diseases are, right? So we normally say you might have the flu and stuff like that, but a disease is just something uncomfortable by definition, right? So if you have the common flu, you might just be ill, but technically by definition that's a disease, right? So people often think disease are just things that kill people, but not necessarily, right? So the 2 main types of disease I think we're going to focus on is, the first one is going to be communicable diseases, and then we'll look at non-communicable diseases as well, right? So a communicable disease is a disease that can pass from person to person, right? It can also pass from person to person via sort of air. It can go via touch, or it can go via something called a vector. And a vector, for example, is something like a mosquito. Right. So if you have malaria, if I just touched you, I wouldn't catch malaria. But if you got bitten by a mosquito, and that mosquito then bites me, the blood that had sucked out of you and put into me, that's what gives me malaria. Right. So that's how that works. And then a non-communicable disease is a disease which cannot be passed from person to person. It can be hereditary, right? But it can't be. If you have a disease, you can't transfer from person to person. So a common communicable disease are things like the flu. can be something bigger like malaria, smallpox, those sorts of diseases, right? And then the classic non-communicable diseases are what?
Cancer.
Yeah, cancer, diabetes,
Yeah.
Things like that, right? So other types of disease that we can get is a zoonotic disease. A zoonotic disease would be something like rabies. So rabies is something that comes from an animal and passes on to humans. There's obviously debate whether COVID was slightly zoonotic. Apparently it came from a bat.
Yeah.
So they're the main classifications. If we're classifying them based on the global impacts of them, you have endemic.
Yeah.
An endemic disease is a disease that is constantly in a certain geographical area. It's defined by that geographical area. For example, something like the West Nile virus is in that certain part of Africa.
Ebola came from West Africa, didn't it?
If you've got something, then if it starts to spread ever so slightly outside, or there's a rapid increase in the amount of diseases, then what you get is you get an epidemic.
Yeah.
Right. So epidemics is when it occurs rapidly in a certain geographical area, and then if that then shifts global, you get a what? Pandemic, which is what we all went through. Right. Those are the three classifications. They're the main classifications of diseases themselves.
Yeah.
And also the three classifications of global distribution of these diseases. Right.
Yeah. Good.
One more thing I just want to go through is how they spread across space. This thing's called diffusion. I'm just going to sort of rattle as much of this out as possible, so like the year 13's got the revision for it. Disease diffusion, it can spread 4 ways. So it can be expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So if the disease is spread through expansion, then the person who had it first, it spreads out over geographical space from that person, whilst the person who has it first still has it. Right. Whereas something like relocation is when it spreads over a completely different part of the world, right? And that happened with COVID, right? Because there's no other way that disease could go anywhere else unless people are taking it there. You've then got something called hierarchical, which is again like COVID. If you have it, then you're likely to pass it on to 2 people, and those 2 people are likely to pass it on to 2 more people. And also with COVID, hierarchical also works with the sense that it starts in the big population centres and then trickles out into the smaller ones. So someone who lives in like Paglesham, for example, in Southend is going to get COVID last, whereas loads of people in London are going to get it first, right? And then there is one more: expansion, relocation, hierarchical. I think then there's contagious as well, and contagious diffusion is when it spreads out, but the person who had it first doesn't have it anymore. Right. So it spreads out, people heal, but then that ripple effect carries on.
Wave effect.
Literally, right. So if we go from that and then talk about 2 diseases specifically, we'll talk about a communicable disease, and then we'll talk about are the causes and then the solutions.
Yeah.
Right. Start off with Ethiopia.
Right.
So Ethiopia.
That is the case study.
That is the case study, right? So Ethiopia is not the case study. Malaria is the case study, right? So how with malaria in Ethiopia, what were some of the main reasons why malaria is spread around?
So that tropical climate.
Yeah.
It needs moisture. It needs warm climate for the mosquitoes to be able to thrive. It needs that stagnant water, doesn't it, for the malaria, the mosquitoes to breed.
Yeah. And what's also interesting is because Ethiopia is an LIDC, it's also heavily reliant on the primary industry.
Yeah.
85% of its economy is the primary industry, and around harvest time is exactly when mosquito breeding season is, right? And harvest time, when they're harvesting, they harvest late into the night. And if you remember those summer nights that we have here, that's when the gnats come out to play, right?
Yeah.
So people in this sort of catch-22 is that if they're not harvesting, then they're not making money for their economy. But when they're harvesting, they're getting bitten by these mosquitoes.
At risk of malaria.
Yeah. So then that's some of the main reasons why malaria spreads. You've also got maybe some limited healthcare services, right? So maybe they haven't got mosquito nets are not widespread, and also they have, I think is it quinine, quinine is the vaccination that you can get, which helps you with medicine, right? So with that, we'll just leave it as those are the causes, right? So we've got some physical causes there, like the climate, and the human causes, like the harvesting.
And they sleep outside often, during harvest time. Sleeping outside, which then puts you more at risk because it's late at night.
Exactly. So What has Ethiopia put in place to try and mitigate and deal with it?
So there was a couple of different things. They had mosquito nets were given out to people.
Yeah, if we just to help with the year 13s, we had two types of mitigation. We had direct and indirect. So direct mitigation of malaria is where you actually destroy the mosquito, right? And indirect is not killing mosquito, but you're preventing malaria getting to people. So mosquito nets, just mosquito nets, we take as indirect.
Yeah, because they don't do anything, they just protect you from being bitten.
Yeah, so we've got mosquito nets, anything else?
Then they've got the mosquito nets with the insecticide on it, so when the mosquito lands on it, it dies instantly, so that is a direct mitigation strategy. The other one was spraying houses.
Yeah.
Again, direct, because it kills the mosquito straight away if it lands, but there's problems with that one. And then the other one was public campaigns.
Yeah.
To raising awareness of the dangers of malaria, how you catch it, how it spreads.
So knowing all those things as well, which is
and then weighing up what's successful and what's not, and like the indirect ones for malaria in Ethiopia come with problems.
Yeah.
You know, public campaigns, you're like, well, yeah, I know that, but I've still got to go out and harvest to make my money. So
yeah, exactly. And maybe if the education, if like literacy rates and stuff aren't higher, then maybe they're not fully going to understand all the language. I think it's something like an anaphylite mosquito. I think that's the name of the mosquito that they've got to try to remember. Because it's only a certain type. But
and even in the case of having access to the public campaigns, what are they being broadcasted on, aired on? How do you read it?
Do they have that technology? It's going to sort of, especially really rural areas, do they have that?
And then also in regards to the nets with the insecticide on it, they're obviously going to cost money. They need to be rolled out nationwide. That's a difficult thing to do. And also like the spraying of the house, there's still going to be gaps for mosquitoes to get in, and it's not guaranteed to protect you. So yeah, you've got to be looking at the success criteria of each of those and whether they are good enough.
What's interesting about these communicable diseases is links to malaria and it links to HIV. Is that the last person to die with malaria and HIV, the disease dies.
Yeah.
So it's all about stopping that spread. So in this case, it's about stopping that vector, because I can't give you malaria, but the mosquito can. So if we eradicate those mosquitoes, which is actually the most dangerous animal on the planet, right? Because it kills more people than a hippo does, right?
That's insane.
And especially with HIV, if you stop someone spreading HIV, then the last person who has HIV and dies, the disease goes as well.
With them, yeah.
Which is really, I think, really, really interesting. There was a guy with smallpox. The last guy who had smallpox was hiding from officials because he didn't like needles. So again, they were like public campaigns trying to hunt this man down.
He was hiding.
Yeah, he was hiding because he didn't like needles, so didn't want an injection or something like that. It's great, it's funny. Right, communicable, because we're actually doing this quite quick, which is quite so now we're moving on to non-communicable.
Yeah,
right?
So diseases that are not contagious and cannot be passed.
Yeah, so with non-communicable diseases, there's this really interesting trend where as soon as your country starts to develop, you stop dying of communicable diseases, and then I'll tell you everyone, loads of people then start dying of non-communicable disease, and it's because of lifestyle choices, right? So with cancer, obviously, because in ACs like the UK, we've got issues with cardiovascular disease, and we've got issues with cancer.
And when you say cardiovascular, heart disease.
Yes. So I think that is the #1 killer. I know dementia's up there now, but I think cardiovascular disease is still the #1 killer.
Yeah, and it just comes from lifestyle choices, because we have access to alcohol, people smoke, fast food, and it's just a culture now of. So if you look at sort of LIDCs, those sort of agricultural workers in Ethiopia are not having a really long day on the farm and going down the pub all night, smoking, and then having a kebab on the way home, are they?
Yeah, and what I'm exactly.
No, do you know? But I know that's a sort of a little bit of a silly example, but the difference is that we just have access to sugary, fatty foods that are causing us health problems.
Yeah, and then what's also interesting is our rates of cancer and stuff might be higher because we've got the technology to diagnose it.
Yes, that's the other thing. Yeah,
and then places maybe in Ethiopia, they might have these rates of cancer, but they haven't got the technology, haven't got the healthcare to be able to diagnose it.
So they haven't got the statistics and the data to back it up.
We're in ACs, we've now got the technology which will say you are at high risk of. You haven't even got it.
You're just at risk of, and I think is it women getting screened for cervical cancer and stuff like that. It's a big push on everyone going
HPV jabs and stuff they have in schools and stuff and all that.
Yeah,
sort of
it's our statistic. I think it's 1 in 2 people are going to get cancer.
Yeah, I think it's 1 or 2 are affected. affected by cancer.
Is that what that stat is? Right.
So it's either you know someone or it's direct.
And let's be honest, you know, we all know, I think so anyway, speaking from personal experience, but most people I know someone or someone's had it in various forms.
Because cancer is just, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's just a mutation of cells.
Yeah, but then what happens is it's like, that's again, we could do with maybe Mr. Uddin on here or Miss Hassia to talk through this because they'd be able to do it in a lot more detail, but how it attacks the cells and also then is reluctant to medication, it just keeps going and growing.
So with cancer in the UK, we've talked about the causes there.
Yeah, so unhealthy lifestyle, even things like sunbeds, people wanting to go on these holidays and sit in the sun all day. Like
isn't that weird? I know it's causation, correlation isn't causation, but the rise in package holidays and then the rise in cancer rates is quite interesting.
Sitting there cooking in the sun.
Exactly. Now, if we just talk about now the
responses. Mitigation to it.
The direct strategies here are diagnosis, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's a direct strategy. Is finding the
and then the indirect strategy is changing habits and stuff.
Well, and also for direct, you'd have things like chemotherapy, radiotherapy, that direct treatment that people have who have been diagnosed.
Exactly. So that's the direct strategies are diagnoses.
Yeah.
And also the actual strategies to try and stop the cancer from spreading. So again, like I say, chemotherapy, maybe surgery in some instances, radiotherapy. And knowing people that went through chemotherapy and radiotherapy, that is rough.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to the year 13s, I'm like, when you see people who look ill and like frail, that's why they've got, you know, they've lost their hair. So they've basically been pumped with radioactive chemicals. It's brutal. It's watching anyone go through that is brutal.
A close family member of mine said that's the worst he has ever felt in his life coming out of chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Yeah,
and it takes a bit of time for it to kick in, and they just look pale, like very, very, very sick, very frail. Because then you're also then
at risk. You're poisoning the cancer in that way.
But you're also at risk then of colds and flu and anything like that because your immune system's battling so much for that. So we are lucky to have that technology in place, that we really are.
Yeah.
And there's also the element of like, you know, sort of alternative medical, which, you know, is I suppose is a quite debatable topic, but things like having like turmeric and garlic and having these like onions meant to be huge in anti-cancer, you know, qualities and stuff. So it's interesting. But so you've got the medicine side, which is direct.
Yeah.
And indirect.
So it's like the public health ads.
The campaigns that we see, you know, the adverts on the back of cigarette packs, the adverts on alcohol adverts, those sorts of things, pretty hard hitting adverts.
Like, if you've got a cough for 3 weeks, go to the doctors and stuff like that. It's all those sorts of things, all the cancer research adverts and things like that.
And even just what we're doing in school, PSHE is a good example of sort of an indirect approach from, you know, for young school children to understand the dangers of vaping, smoking. That's what it will do.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, cool. I think we've done that well, actually.
It was all right, considering the morning and the weekend and everything else that's gone on. Yeah, right, what time are we on?
9 minutes past 8.
All right, perfect. We've got till 15:15.
Yeah, so if we start with the news, got to talk about the plane crash.
Oh, God. So I woke up, it was yesterday, wasn't it? So I haven't actually looked because I didn't look at the news when I got home yesterday. But I woke up, got in the car and the radio was on, and there was people going, oh, we're really sorry for, there were like 60 lost Americans. I was thinking, what has happened? What on earth's happened? And I had to pull over because I was like, they weren't telling me what was happening on the news. They were just talking. And so I pulled over, checked the news and saw that a plane collided with a military helicopter. You seen the video?
Yes, mate.
You see the helicopter coming up, the plane, they're coming together, and they must have just, but I suppose they're travelling so fast.
I wonder if one's like above the other, one's below the other. So
they're travelling so fast that they can't veer off course or whatever. I don't know what it is.
So the very, very unfortunate thing is there's no survivors.
None.
Well,
did you see it landed in the river as well?
Yeah, so the plane's smashed to bits. Yeah. Helicopter intact.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because it's a military helicopter?
I don't know, and also I think it was because the helicopter hit the plane and not the other way around.
But there was no one survived in the helicopter?
No one survived. There was loads of figure skaters, famous figure skaters on board, and landed in the river. And this was in Washington, landed in the river.
Is it Reagan Airport? Is that what it's called?
That's where it was going. I know it landed in the river. I'm just trying to find the what the name of the river is. The Potomac River, and that was about 1 degree Celsius when they landed in that. So if you wasn't, because that was a viable.
Well, it was a bit. Well, surely they're not hitting that river alive, are they?
I don't think so. So we've seen that. It's obviously awful if you don't like flying. That's now going to be.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't like flying, but there's been a couple recently, hasn't there? There's been a few.
Yeah, so
but let's not go down that path.
No, so once again, our thoughts are with everyone who is and was involved.
And like when we talk about these things being relevant to the world of geography, America's an AC country. They are so technologically advanced that should not be happening. Like there's no excuses there for you know.
At all. I'm gonna go. Let's shift to the next part of the news.
Wait, go on. All right, no, go on. I'll do one after.
Okay. The government has backed the third runway at Heathrow.
Oh, I saw this. I was like, this is so good. So for some context, we teach this in year 7, and I like that episode. Yeah. It's basically the point of the lesson is should or should they not build the third runway?
So what's interesting is that we've said no. The International Court on Climate Change has said no because it'll break climate regulations, and now the government want to increase economic growth, and they think a third runway is going to do that. But what that involves is diverting the A4. It involves knocking down a whole town. That conurbation around Heathrow is more affected by noise pollution than Paris Charles de Gaulle. I think there's one in Germany, there's one in Italy, and there's someone somewhere else, all combined.
Really?
My girlfriend lives right near that.
Is it loud? Can you hear it?
Definitely. So you're closer. I can get to Heathrow from hers, 10 minutes.
Wow, right.
So there's that. They're also backing the Lower Thames crossing. So that is the potential tunnel that goes from the pretty much Ulster Cop roundabout under to Kent.
Really?
So they're backing that.
Do you think that would be good? It would be good for round here, but it eases traffic round here.
Yeah, because it's a pinch, that Dartford crossing is a pinch point.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, about the third runway as well. Someone was saying it's really interesting because they were like, "Oh, you're talking at it about like economic growth and stuff," and they were like, "Big businesses now just do everything online."
Yeah.
They were like, they're not flying around like that anymore, like they used to. They're like, they'll be coming into London. It was like the person was like, "No, they just do it over Zoom."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's a valid point." Yeah. Rewind 10 years ago, maybe that third runway was.
So, and also some guy said that was on the radio was that third runway wouldn't exist until about early 2040s anyway. So how long it takes to do. Like I said, they've got to divert the M25 because they need to build over it.
Yeah, they've got to build some bridge.
Yeah.
That's just going to cause chaos.
Other commentators are saying again, yet another thing that's happening in the south of England. And nothing's happening.
Yeah. And then the last one was someone was like, it was going to generate hundreds of thousands of jobs, and someone was like, yeah, in the construction industry. Then what happens once it's finished?
Yeah, exactly.
The last piece of news I wanted to bring up was the ceasefire in Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
I think hopefully, Palestinians were returning home in their thousands, weren't they?
Yeah.
After 15 months away, I think it was. So it's hopefully now they can come to some sort of resolution, and that there was lots of hostages released. They were pretty pictures. So
got released.
It's nice to actually give a little bit of a positive spin on that story for once.
Fact-wise, Nor sent me one, and every time she sends me one, I'm tempted to go back. I know this, just in case she's trying to just show off how much she knows. Yeah, sorry, I know this. And then she definitely has sent me one.
She had a good one about Cairo moving the capital city. Did we do that one?
Moving the capital, yeah, but we teach that, I mean.
Not how many times they've moved it, we don't teach it.
So, once again, correspondent law, I see Wild busy with GCSEs or something. So he's all over the gaff, really. Geographical fact-wise, let's see, I've got one, I'm going to have a look for 1 second.
And you need to look for the weather as well, please, because it's not a weather forecast.
Right, I'll do the weather.
You're changing the order of the podcast.
There's not, I've only got a fact. Who's lead fact?
No, surely any geography fact's got to be there. Anything.
Oh, here we go. So Law said every 250,000 years, the magnetic North Pole and the South Pole change place.
Sorry?
Every 250,000 years, the magnetic North Pole and South Pole change place.
So they swap over?
Yeah. So now South becomes North, North becomes South. And that's actually evidence for tectonic, continental drift as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes the rock dries north, and we know that this rock always dries facing north.
Yeah.
And for some reason it faces the other way, so that means that the south must have been north.
That's because that happens on the ocean floor, doesn't it?
Yes. So we're now going on to weather.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's moody out there.
It's horrible out there.
Big time moods. Today, rubbish.
Terrible. It's freezing out there. The gritters were out last night.
Yeah, ruined my
Handsome
nice
Britain.
clean car.
Have you seen the names of the salt gritters? That's so good. Yeah, it ruins the car. It's raining, it's grey, it's windy, it's freezing cold. It is miserable.
Tomorrow for you golf.
Hold on, I'm playing golf tomorrow. What is this weather?
Sunny out, mostly sunny.
All day?
Yeah.
Cold and sunny?
Yeah.
It's my favourite type of weather.
Yeah, so no more than 10% chance of rain.
Lovely.
Sunday is even sunnier, even drier.
Really? Beautiful.
Lovely stuff.
Can't wait to sit in and mark test papers all day.
Right, let's wrap this up to 16 now.
Right.
Run over.
Oh no. Right, thank you very much.
Right, I'm going to have to sing this outro, I think, so I can't get the video.
Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Be good, stay safe.
Yeah.
Have you got the outro?
Yeah, I've got it. It might be an advert though.
That's all right. Nothing new there with us, is there?
If anyone's interested in Deadpool Wolverine, it's on Disney Plus now.
It's a great film.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Very good. Not appropriate for anyone in this school. It's an 18, I think.
Yeah.
Right.